All right, so let's talk about some conditional variations. We're going to talk about converses, inverses, and contrapositive, and also determine some logical equivalence between these different statements. So for one, let's talk about the converse. So the way you would create a converse from a conditional statement is it would be in the form if Q, then P. So all you would really do is you would switch the place of the hypothesis and the conclusion. So for instance, if you have the statement, if today is Friday, then tomorrow is Saturday, the converse of this statement would be if tomorrow is Saturday, then today is Friday. Remember that if and then are not part of the hypothesis or the conclusion. So the hypothesis is today is Friday, the conclusion is tomorrow is Saturday. So if I switch those places, I get if tomorrow is Saturday, then today is Friday. That's the converse. The inverse is this tilde means the negation of. So the inverse is if the negation of P, then the negation of Q. So the hypothesis and the conclusion stay in the same spot, but you have to negate them or switch them. So and this will make sense in a second. So again, if we have the conditional statement, if today is Friday, then tomorrow is Saturday, the inverse of this statement is if today is not Friday, then tomorrow is not Saturday. Another thing is that the inverse is logically equivalent to the converse. So if today is not Friday, then tomorrow is not Saturday is the same thing as saying if tomorrow is Saturday, then today is Friday. They mean the exact same thing. Now, this statement is always true, but maybe the conditional itself was a false statement and the converse is true. If I know the converse is true, then I know the inverse has to also be true. They are logically equivalent. Then there's the contrapositive, which is in the form if not Q, then not P, which means I am switching and negating both the hypothesis and the conclusion. With our statement of if today is Friday, then tomorrow is Saturday, our contrapositive would be if tomorrow is not Saturday, then today is not Friday. So I'm taking the hypothesis, negating it, and putting it first. I'm taking the conclusion, negating it, putting it first, taking the hypothesis, negating it, and putting it second. So that's where these nots come into play. The contrapositive is logically equivalent to the initial statement, the initial condition. So they are the same thing. If I know that the conditional is true, the contrapositive also has to be true. So if I have this statement, if a number is divisible by 6, then it is divisible by 3. The converse of this statement is when I switch the hypothesis and conclusion. And I would get, if a number is divisible by 3, then it is divisible by 6. Notice, I changed the wording a little bit. I didn't just copy and paste. I don't say, if it is divisible by 3, then a number is divisible by 6. I make it sound nice. So as long as you're transferring the ideas, the wording isn't specifically important. The inverse of this conditional statement is if a number is not divisible by 6, then it is not divisible by 3. So I negated the hypothesis and the conclusion. The contrapositive, if a number is not divisible by 3, then it is not divisible by 6. So the hypothesis and the conclusion got switched and negated. Let's do another one. If I can't sleep, then I'm not tired. So the converse of this statement is, and this is a false statement. Just because I can't sleep doesn't mean I'm not tired. Maybe I'm anxious, and that's why I can't sleep. So this is a false statement. However, if I'm not tired, then I can't sleep. That sounds like a true statement. This converse is, if I know the converse is true, I know the inverse is going to be true. So the inverse of this statement is also going to be true. If I can sleep, then I'm tired. So I can sleep, I'm going to be tired. That's that. So false, true, true, false. If I'm tired, then I can sleep. Oh, notice also, so I didn't add a not in here. In fact, I took the not out. when I found the inverse of this statement, it's if I cannot sleep, it changes into if I can sleep. The negation of a negative is a positive. So can't changes to can when I negate can't. So the inverse is all positive stuff because the initial conditional statement was all negative stuff. So the negatives turn to positive when I take the negative of it. The contrapositive is if I'm tired, then I can sleep. So it's the negation and switched. I think one more. The windows are closed. If the windows are closed, then it is raining outside. Again, this is a false statement. The windows are closed right now and it's not raining. So that would be my counterexample. Right now is a counterexample to that statement. The converse, I switch the hypothesis and conclusion. If it is raining outside, then the windows are closed. Maybe true, maybe false, depending on your preference. The inverse, if the windows are open, then it is not raining outside. Again, I negated closed. I didn't say not closed. I said open. So the idea of not closed is there. I changed the wording a little bit to make it sound nicer. And the contrapositive, if it is not raining outside, then the windows are open. And that's it.